Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the third episode of Built By podcast, and this is the special quarantine edition episode. I'm here in my
Quarantine.
bunker. I'm in the bunker here. Josh was able to make it to the office. So see you're in our dingy basement over there.
Yep. So I'm actually where we normally film the podcast, except I don't have the fancy microphone set up. So as we go through this podcast, bear with us. Our audio quality is not going to be as good, but
Hmm.
we are doing this over video chat, which is awesome because today's episode is going to be on technology.
Perfect. Yeah, we're gonna dive in a little bit to and really frame everything in the reference of what's going on in the world today, which is COVID-19 coronavirus. It's had a huge impact on home improvement business. A lot of people are changing up a lot of the ways that they're approaching canceled appointments, reaching out to clients for rehash, deferred projects, things like that. So we'll dive in and talk a little bit about the technology people are using. And we have a great guest today.
Yep. Tim Mush. He is the director of business development and the founder at MarketSharp, which is a home improvement CRM. So we're excited to speak with him a
The
little bit
first,
later on in the show.
the
And
first
yeah,
CRM ever.
first CRM. So we're excited to hear what he has to say. He's been in the industry since I think the late '80s, right?
Yep, 88.
And yeah, so he's seen it all from 9/11 to the recession. He's seen these fluctuations in the home improvement industry. So we're excited to get his take and his advice on how businesses can handle this, particularly from a marketing perspective and a sales perspective, moving forward as we go through COVID-19 together as home improvement professionals. So stay tuned.
Mhm. Hey everyone, I'm Matt Miner,
I'm Josh Carter,
and this is the special quarantine episode of Built By.
episode 3.
Um, Episode 3. We're diving right in. We have a lot of good stuff. We want to keep it a little bit short because it's kind of an interesting dynamic here with the webinar format.
And we're
Um,
respectful of your time as a home improvement
yes,
professional.
absolutely. So let's be honest. All right, everything has changed. COVID-19 is officially the most insane thing that's happened in the
Yep.
last 10
This is
years.
all you need to
Um,
focus on right now is
yeah,
COVID-19 and how
exactly.
you're going to handle this. All the
Yeah,
strategies that we talked about last week with social media and then 2 weeks before about blogging, that stuff is important, but let's address COVID-19 right now.
yeah, yeah. Um, all right. So we poured into the data of our current customers, and
Mm-hmm.
we've seen some interesting stats that we're pulling out, and we're using some campaigns that were our most successful customers over the last week have been using. We've seen sales keep pretty steady, surprisingly. Everybody thinks it's the end of the world. It's really not. There is three main things happening though,
Yep.
and the reason why I think a lot of home improvement professionals are feeling the burn a little bit is there's more canceled appointments. People are in self quarantine. I'm here in my house, white bunker. Um, they're seeing projects that were on the table scheduled for this week get deferred, projects that were in the next month deferred because no one knows what the hell is going to happen, what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And home show events, trade shows, those are being canceled left and right. And that's really the lifeblood of a lot of home improvement marketers and home improvement companies in general.
Yeah. So we're not really seeing net new leads get impacted. I've had a conversation with the folks at Modernize, which they're very similar to Home Advisor in that they provide lead generation solutions for home improvement companies. So they match up home improvement companies with homeowners who need
Mm-hmm.
to get jobs done, and they're actually not seeing too much of a downtick in new leads. And like I mentioned, like you mentioned just now about the revenue
Mm-hmm.
piece of it that we're seeing in Hatch, revenue is still staying pretty consistent. But again, there are those concerns about revenue down the road, like projects getting deferred and the cancellations of appointments. You've got to get ahead of those. And that's why we're going to be
Yeah.
talking today about some cool technology that you can use to engage with your customers. Another interesting that's happening that is, really helping the home improvement industry if it's executed correctly on is the federal interest rate cuts.
Mhm.
That means that banks are offering lower financing rates. I think it was when my buddy's mortgage, he refinanced it. It went from 4.5% to 3%.
Yep.
So a lot of homeowners are taking advantage of that, and they're going to have more money in their pocket. And so they're going to want to either take advantage of, a project right now if they feel comfortable having you come out to the house, or they're going to defer a project till later on. And there's actually some really interesting financing solutions out there that lock somebody in a credit line for up to 6 months. I think that
Yeah.
companies finance it. So yeah, it's really interesting because so if you do this right, you execute correctly during COVID-19. We're going to give you some tips to do that. You can come
Yep.
out, guns ablazing once this thing is up.
Yeah. And really the biggest thing um, that we're seeing with our clients is we're pivoting on messaging. We're really, it's at the point now you can't avoid this. You can't be going to old leads talking about like home projects. You need to start
No,
mentioning COVID-19 and that you're aware of it. You need to start changing up some processes. And what we've seen is a couple of our clients and what we on LinkedIn, Facebook, and a lot of people are talking about it, which is a good thing. And there's some really good insights that they have. Actually, last week we had a Melissa Fuentes from Window Source West Texas.
yep,
They put out a really cool like just guide of how they're approaching COVID-19 and some of the steps that they're taking. And this is customer facing document. Um, it's some really cool preventative measures. I'm not going to really dive into it, but they're letting customers know that everyone that they come in contact with is getting their temperature taken before they meet with homeowners. And on
yep,
the flip side of that, they're starting to offer virtual appointments, which is huge at this point. If you haven't explored a virtual appointment software like Whereby, which we're using right now, or Skype or FaceTime or Zoom, we wrote a really cool blog about all of these digital tools that you can check out and apply for yourself. And most of these, I would say more than 50% of the tools we wrote about are free right now, free for you to take advantage of. And we highly suggest you check that out. And some of the other cool things they're doing is, they're telling customers they're disinfecting every single thing that they touch, from the railways when they're walking up the stairs. Um, they're practicing social distancing so they won't be close to a customer when they're conversing with them. A lot of companies are staying entirely outside.
yep.
And again, if you can't do virtual appointments, if your customer doesn't want that, then by all means, um, keep it as business as usual. But a lot of the campaigns that we're seeing right now are focused on those virtual appointments.
Yeah, and what I love about their approach in particular, Window Source West Texas, is that they're not just doing that vanilla messaging of we're here for you and then saying goodbye. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're adding in these like preventative, proactive measures. Another
Yeah.
interesting thing that I've seen a lot of home improvement companies doing is any business that can be conducted outside the home, whether it's like reviewing a quote or having a conversation, that's all done outside the home. So they're being really proactive about making sure that only going into the house if it's absolutely necessary. So
Yeah.
I think that's like a really effective approach in home improvement. And from a marketing perspective, kind of flipping this on its head, that's when you're actually on the job. But when you're trying to get new jobs, I saw an interview with Megan McGuire, who works at All Weather Seal of West Michigan, and she had an
Mm-hmm.
interview at Pro Remodeler. You can check that out on proremodeler.com. They've actually started beefing up advertising on social media and TV. So they've got all these proactive measures similar to the Window Source West Texas for when they do the job. So they're there for their customers in that sense. But they're taking advantage of the fact that honestly, advertising is a lot cheaper now,
Yeah.
particularly on television, right? Because less and less companies want to be running ads. So they're taking advantage of that, beefing up advertising, and they're actually hiring high school door knockers to canvas to get jobs for that company. So high
Mm-hmm.
schoolers, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the folks listening right now, you've got kids that are going to be home for the next few weeks. So a lot of these high schoolers
Gotta,
lost their job. Yep. So you got to give
yeah,
them.
gotta get them out of the house.
Yep, exactly. So this company they hired 14 high schoolers in 24 hours to be door knockers. But those folks wear yellow vests and wear disposable gloves to kind of mitigate that risk there.
Yeah.
And that to me is really interesting because typically home improvement companies that we're seeing right now are kind of cowering in fear
Yeah.
about the coronavirus, and they're really hesitant to want to invest any cash in the business. And
Hmm.
rightly so, that makes sense. But if you do have the resources right now to be spending on advertising, you're going to be one of the few folks in your market actually doing that, and you'll be able to capture an audience that honestly many folks are not too concerned about it, to be quite transparent with you guys right now. So
Yeah.
there's many folks that are actually willing to take the job right now, or at least
Yeah.
defer the job to later on.
Yeah. And look, we get it. Like, cash flow is a major thing for home improvement businesses and a
Yep.
major worry for a lot of owners. Um, but it's human nature to see, okay, we're spending money here. Obviously, we need to cut this. This, like all other things that have impacted the industry, shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
And the companies that are adapting to it right now and really being proactive with it are going to be the ones that see the greatest returns. And I can't imagine this is going to go longer than a few weeks, right? It's going to be a really great way to get in front of customers, to educate them and be a resource for them in this time, because they're as unsure of what's going to happen as you are. So be kind of that guiding light for a lot of these customers. And all of your customer outreach right now should be kind of based around COVID-19.
Yeah, and even if you don't have the cash to shell out on new hires or beefing up advertising, there's a lot of free tools out there that'll help you connect with your customers digitally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that I mean, heck, at Hatch we're a conversation platform, right? We're a communication platform. We do text, email, and phone calls, but you can easily whip out your phone, text, and suggest a virtual appointment, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
really want to make sure that everyone's clear that there's a lot of tools out there that homeowners, they're technologically savvy and they're willing to hop on a video call with you. Most of them are working from home right now or doing this every day. So just go to your these homeowners where they are. If you've
Mm-hmm.
got contacts in your database that are pushing you off or are canceling appointments, suggest a video call. There's a few
Mm-hmm.
really, really cool video conferencing tools out there today that are free that you can use to get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one we mentioned in the blog is a company actually that's soon to be a partner of ours, is Hover,
Mm,
which is like it was 3D modeling technology, I think, that was like used by the U.S. military.
yep.
And all Hover needs is 8 smartphone photos of a house, and then they'll digitally render a 3D model of the house with accurate measurements. It's insane, and it's exactly like these are the types of things that will help your business get through this super strange time.
Yep. You don't even need to be on site for that. They take the pictures,
Mhm.
it measures it out, it sends it to you. So you can do that remote. You can do these virtual appointments remote through like Whereby or Zoom or Google Hangouts or even FaceTime. Some of our customers are actually using FaceTime. And then also there's quoting and estimation tools out there too. So you can go in and use a tool like Leap or use a tool like Jobber to actually generate quotes that
Mhm.
can be digitally signed, so you don't need to have a signature in person. Um, I think that's a general best practice for any business right now is to use e-signature. But if you're not doing that, do that, especially right now. So any ways that you can eliminate that face-to-face contact while also staying personalized through these virtual meetings, virtual appointments, staying connected with them over text, email, phone. Plug for Hatch because we have one platform to do all of that in. But you
Yeah,
can always manage it on your phone if you really want to.
yeah,
It just makes life a lot easier to do it that way.
absolutely. So yeah, I really want to actually pivot and dive into our conversation with Tim Musch, who we're going to bring on in a few seconds.
Mm,
Tim has a very interesting perspective. To give you a little background, I think we mentioned earlier he built the very first CRM for the home improvement industry, and since 1988, I mean, he's seen So many things happened, 9/11, the recession, and he's got some really good advice, some life advice from having lived through those and seeing how it's impacted the industry and some of the good things to do. So we'll bring him on here shortly, so stay tuned.
All right, well, we're pleased to welcome to the Built By podcast, Tim Musch, the founder and director of business development over at MarketSharp, which is one of the premium CRMs in the home improvement space. We're actually partners and we integrate with them. So welcome to the show, Tim.
Well, thanks so much. Happy to be here, Josh.
Great. Well, I mean, this whole past couple of weeks has been a whirlwind for the home improvement industry. And I mean, I thought no better person to talk to than somebody who's kind of seen everything in the home improvement space. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience at MarketSharp? How long have you been in the home improvement industry and things that you've seen and anything that you can provide as intelligence as to what's happening today with COVID-19 and compare it to maybe things that you've seen in the industry over the past 20, 30 years?
Sure, happy to do that. History-wise, here's how I got started. Actually in the window replacement business back in the 80s. One day went and bought a Macintosh computer to try to figure out how to make it help us in our business. Mm-hmm. Long story short, Windows supplier came in, says, "What do you got there?" I says, "Well, I just created this program that helps in our business." He says, "Gosh, would you show my boss that thing?" Window manufacturer in Minneapolis. I said, "Yeah, why not?" So up there I go, and his boss says, "That's pretty cool." And by the way, what it was a CRM. But back then, those letters were not even put together yet.
Right.
So it was kind of interesting. But his boss said, "Hey, I got a dealer meeting come up. You want to show it to them?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So I'm in front of this group of about 100 window dealers in Minneapolis with a little 9-inch black and white Macintosh computer in front of the group, no projector, talking about this thing. And most of them thought I was probably from Mars. But a few of them raised their hand and says at the end of it and said, "Can I have one of those?" And to make a long story short, that's how the business got started. Since then, thousands of companies use MarketSharp. Last year, about $3.3 billion in installed home improvements were managed through MarketSharp with our clients. So pretty cool. So yeah, I've been at it a while. I've been through some things, not like what we're dealing with today, but certainly, I guess it is like what we're seeing today, but certainly different. And the one thing I learned about it is we're going to get through this, and I think that's the one thing we got to go forward with is we're going to get through this. It's certainly going to cause some disruption, but we are going to get through it. So that's just a little bit of history of where we've come from MarketSharp and where my experience has been.
Very cool. Tim, was MarketSharp, I guess the CRM that you had created, was that kind of the first CRM in the home improvement industry?
Yeah, it certainly was. For years, it just kind of trickled along and didn't do a whole lot with it, just had some exclusive arrangements with a couple of manufacturers and got it out that way. So it certainly was the first.
So you've got quite the clout in the industry. What is MarketSharp doing right now to help folks during this, pretty stressful time for a lot of home improvement companies?
Yeah, good question. One thing we're finding here is we're trying to at MarketSharp try to help pretty much in 3 areas with our clients. One is encouragement, and we all could use that right now. So I think we need to encourage each other and things such as that. But the second thing that we think we can help with dramatically, and not just MarketSharp clients, but anybody listening to this particular podcast now probably has some of this. And what that is data. People are now realizing the true importance of their data, their customers, their leads, their unsold leads, things such as that can be leveraged right now. Might be tougher to build some new relationships right now, but the existing relationships are like currency for your business. So that's one thing we can really help with. And then finally, this is kind of related to the industry at large and also our clients. We're really interested in helping with any training that's necessary to help people get their business in order and kind of adapt to what we're dealing with right now. And here's the big payoff of that. The companies that will do that and understand that efficiency in their business is of utmost importance now. Guess what happens when we pull out of this and the faucet gets turned on again? And I've seen this happen throughout the previous recession and things like 9/11 and so forth, is the companies that don't stick their head in the sand, but actually take this time to get better at what they do. When the faucets turn back on, they have a bonanza and they steal market share from their competitors. And it's an awesome thing. So those are the things we're trying to help with.
Do you find that the home improvement industry is at sort of a crossroads right now between going after new business versus going after existing business, or not existing business, but like lead database? Or, what advice would you give somebody, a home improvement company that's trying to decide where they should be placing their investments? Because we're seeing a lot of different approaches today.
Yeah, you're right. And, I don't think we should ignore going after new people. I think we got to come up with some creative ways to do that. We can certainly chat about that in a second. But again, as mentioned previously, the existing relationships that you have in your database need to be leveraged in a number of ways. And there's certainly a whole bunch of tools. I know you folks have a great tool that can help with that. There's a whole bunch of ways you can do that. So I think that is really the gold mine that we might have to rely on here for a while. And, guys, when I think about advice, maybe to give home improvement companies during this time, and how to describe the time we're in right now, to me, one word comes to mind. It's extraordinary. And when you think of that word, you might think, oh, that word means super awesome, great, and cool, and all that. It really doesn't have to mean that. Extraordinary, when you break that word apart, take it and break it in two, it means extraordinary. Meaning things are out of the ordinary. And obviously our personal family health is of primary importance to all of us. And it's pretty obvious we're all taking extraordinary measures to minimize the impact on our health and well-being. But that said, I'm sure we all want to minimize the negative impact on our business as well. And really what we're dealing with, I think, can be described in two words. And what that is business disruption. We got some business disruption going on. It's real. It's going to take place. But here's the thing. Extraordinary conditions like we're dealing with right now in your business really require an extraordinary response. And there's four things I think we should consider. Number one is you got to have extraordinary determination. You really do. And you got to be able to balance logic and emotion, because there is a ton of emotion going on out there. And you're really going to want to balance that and get determined. Don't stick your head in the sand and give up. Secondly, have extraordinary concern and empathy for your employees and your clients. And people will feel that. And that'll go a long way for you. Third, here's the big one. You got to have extraordinary innovation in your marketing and sales efforts. You got to kind of think out of the box now. And you know what? Just within the few days we've really been dealing with this, in crisis mode, so to speak, man, the things I'm hearing in terms of what people are doing, they're being totally innovative and coming up with great ideas to really help in their marketing and sales efforts. And here's the last one. And this one will not only get you through now, it's going to really take you into the future of your business. You really got to work on having extraordinary processes in your business. When things are just running and flowing easy, guess what? We can kind of ignore that one. And we can kind of wing it and even not be very good at what we do and still make some money. But now is the time for a couple of reasons. First off, you might have some time and you really want to get as efficient as you possibly can for now and in the future. So extraordinary processes are huge. So determination, concern, and empathy for your employees and clients, innovation, and extraordinary processes, I think, are some things we really should consider.
Thanks, Tim. That was, I couldn't have said it better myself. Really, I think when you were talking through innovation, it brought me back to what we were talking about earlier in the podcast about some technology tools that are helping companies move their business from, being face-to-face to more, virtual. And we were talking through some tools like estimating tools, obviously CRM tools like MarketSharp. What types of technology do you think are making the biggest impact for these home improvement businesses today? If there was maybe a couple tools that you can think of off the top of your head that are must-haves for companies, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, what do you think those are?
Yeah, good question. Certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the importance of an industry-specific CRM, which is the core of your business. So got that out of the way.
There you go. The plug is in.
Yeah, there we go. Anything that helps with lead conversion. That's what we need right now.
Yep.
And that's pretty much been a message that I've been talking about for the past year throughout the industry. And here I'm talking about, get stellar web strategies. Get your web strategies doing a great job. Most companies I see don't have that working. So hook yourself up with some companies that can help you with that. There's a bunch out there that can. Okay, and get creative sales efforts going on. What a lot of people are going to is they're going to remote selling. Now, whether that's going to be the way of the future once we turn the corner on this, I don't know. I think there's going to be more and more of it. But I'll tell you what, right now, a lot of people are thinking remote selling is something to consider. Right. So there's product like Engage and One Click Contractor and Leap that can help you with making presentations remotely, some of which have estimating built in and so forth. And then finally, and I could go on with this list, but finally, lead nurturing tools. Anything you can do to continue conversations with your leads, with your clients, to maximize what you can get out of them in terms of conversion. And I know what you folks do at Hatch there is awesome along these lines. So those are critical tools that can help get through it. So tools that can help you communicate and leverage your existing relationships is really huge.
That's awesome, Tim. That really, I think, wraps up most of the questions we had. Again, I really want to thank you for coming on our official quarantine podcast. A little out of the ordinary, but you did a great job. Thanks so much. I think those insights are very valuable to anyone in the home improvement industry. If you wanted to take a moment or two and talk a little bit about MarketSharp and some of the things you're doing, anything on the horizon, feel free to kind of close this out there.
Well, we just continue to tweak the program, make it better, adapt to the times and things such as that. Probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. I just think it makes sense to get yourself an industry-specific CRM that's built from the ground up for this business. In closing, let me just say this. I mentioned it earlier. We're going to get through this. Even though the past events, 9/11, 2008 recession, weren't exactly like this. Here's what I saw. The companies that stayed the course not only survived, they actually thrived during the slowdown, and more importantly, afterwards. And picture this in your mind if you would. Remember this. The pie, by that I mean maybe the amount of money homeowners are going to spend on home improvements, probably going to be a little smaller for a period of time here. Probably is. But here's the thing. Way less companies are going to be going after that pie. And what that can mean to everybody on this call is you can have increased market share rather than decreased. Less to have, but more to get. You can imagine it that way. So something you can count on. Challenges always bring opportunities. They really do. So I think what it's our job to do is, as individual business owners and so forth, is identify those opportunities because they're there and embrace them and then go after them.
Very cool. I love it, Tim. Love it. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on the show, Tim. Really appreciate your time and your insights as one of the folks in the industry that's really seen it all. You built quite a product over there at MarketSharp.
All right, thanks guys. Appreciate the opportunity and wish everybody the best as we all kind of get through this.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks everybody for joining. This podcast has been built by MarketSharp, and we hope to see you next week, hopefully under better circumstances.
Yeah, we can read each other's body language much better in person than we can online. too.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys all know about it, because after this, you're going to be doing virtual appointments. Just if there's one takeaway, just do virtual appointments, guys. That's the one takeaway. Y'all have a good one. Take care.
Take it easy.